So, of course, you guys would know I would have something like this in my stockpile. Commentary on building code requirements for reinforced concrete ACI 318-77. Whoa, we swing around and we come around, and it's going to come into focus now. Third printing, May 1979. Editorial corrections made as of May 1979. I have the hard copy of the ACI's book. Now, I want to turn to page of for our 1980 stuff, right? So, this is the commentary on building code requirements for reinforced concrete ACI book. This is ACI right here. This is the guideline that they had to follow. Building the Champlain Towers. This is the book there. What I want to show you is that, so this is the hard copy. I've had it for some time. I've been holding out. I was hoping someone would want to do some banter. Some engineer on YouTube would want to do that live interaction with me, where we would challenge each other on this structure. And by challenge, I mean this would improve everyone's knowledge of it, because we would basically try to debunk each other and refine and learn from each other by saying, no, I think this, no, I think that. That's the way it really works in the real world, right? Contractors do it. Engineers should do it. But mostly engineers give each other a pat on the back saying, nice, oh, I like that, I like that. I guess it's sort of like medicine. They do the same thing. They do a lot of pat on the backs instead of saying, I think you're going down the wrong path on that one. Whereas I guess mechanics also fight each other. You know, I'm thinking about the people I know in different careers that are willing to banter with each other. Engineers aren't willing to banter as much. You don't see them on YouTube that way, do you? You see engineers on YouTube that do collaborations, just patting each other on the back, instead of going, wait a minute, but what if this? Oh, how about that? You know, trying to find defects. It's more a circle jerk, as I call it. So this is, and that's why no one's taking my challenge, because they're not used to being, you know, their amygdalas won't accept that, hey, they could be wrong. So with that said, I do talk to a lot of engineers that are willing to talk to me on the phone. And Charles, this was a shout out to you. Charles is my geo man. And Charles, him and I got off the phone just not too long ago this morning. And I'm telling you, I'm doing an experiment with epoxies and the freeze-thaw cycle right now that will, in the concrete, I have it set up there. You guys saw my setup already. And it's going through freeze-thaw cycles now. And at one point, I'm going to put a pull test on it, rebar pull-out test on it. I'm going to let it get down into the 20s. And then I'm going to go out there and freeze, put the pull-out test on it. And we're going to see how the rebar pulls through. We're going to get results on that. Being it's probably too cold, I'll probably not look at it till later, but I'm going to look for fractures in the epoxy. Charles informed me that he recalls years ago they used a spring test on, this is interesting for you guys, on some rebar, epoxy coated, and they put it under a railroad spring, as I think he described to me. Now, he's only described it to me, so you guys visualize it the way you visualize it. I visualize it the way I do. And they threaded they put threads on the end of the rebar, and they put tension on the spring, compression on the spring, which puts a force on the block of concrete that's on the end of at the end of the spring, where it meets the spring. Now, they probably used a plate or something to distribute the load on that concrete to see if it would cause slippage off the rebar. And I don't know what force they use, but I'm definitely going to try to see if the research has been published on that. With that said, let's jump back to ACI. And we look at under inspections under 1.3, and to cut to the chase, they are, per 1980, and this code written May 1979, they were allowed to do their own inspections. So inspection, the quality of reinforced concrete structures depending on, I'm reading through the phone also, not from the page. On workmanship and construction, the best materials and design practice will not be effective unless the construction is performed well. Okay, common sense stuff. But this is how they wrote in 1980s, just so you guys know. Is this light on this thing? No, it's getting a lot of glare. Hold on. Okay. Where am I? Proper performance of the structure depends on construction, which, okay, you guys can see that. You guys can pause it, the screen. I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to jump around a little bit. The code does not set responsibility for inspection other than by a competent engineer or architect. So I think the architect signed off on this. Well, ACI allowed, back in 1980, allowed for an architect and competent engineer. Very, very interesting they used competent engineer. So competent engineer does not mean a professional engineer, PE. It just says competent engineer. Or by a competent representative responsible to him. You see that? And not even, and it could be even extrapolated out beyond that, a representative. This is fair, guys. Don't think it's not fair. It's fair game. You know, you can't have the licensed person running around to each job. So usually it's a person representing him that will do the inspections. Him or her, current day. What else do I have to say about that? I did want to say, so think of the plumbers and the electricians. They use workers all the time that are not licensed, but they're working underneath the license of the plumber and of the electrician. But the licensed electrician is more than likely not the one running the wires. It's his workers who are not licensed, mostly are not licensed yet, or the plumber, or the workers who are apprentices, if you will. But we'll just call them workers because apprenticeships usually don't work out that long. People these days, there's some devious stuff going on with electricians and plumbers where the guy has to get so many years in and then they won't sign off on them because they don't want the competition. So they won't sign off on the years of apprenticeship, which is like 5 years for both of them, I think, right now. But they need to show their 5 years of employment to the state, and usually they got to do it by, since the contractor won't sign off for them, they usually got to do it by their W-2s, trying to prove it. Yeah, I've run across a few electricians that were trying to get licensed that had the employer not wanting to sign off. They don't want the competition. All right, so the General Building Code should address the questions of inspection responsibility for all types of construction. When conditions permit such an arrangement, inspection of construction by or under the supervision of the engineer or architect responsible for the design should be considered, because the personage, I'm trying to get this thing to be more clear, focused, is the best qualified to inspect for conformance with the design. When such an arrangement is not feasible, the owner may provide proper inspection of construction through his engineers or architects or through separate inspection organizations with demonstrated capabilities for performing the inspection. So you see they have a lot of leeway there. And I'm just going to jump here for you. Pause it, and then I'll jump here for you. And you guys can pause the screen. I'm going to take you to the end of, I'm going to take you over to 1.33. So I took you there. We're at the end. Well, this is still on the inspections. Let me get this lighting. I see the lighting's glaring on you. It says inspections over there. Inspections by inspections, quote. The word inspection. Okay, you can see it, I hope, this glare. The code does not mean that an inspector should supervise the construction. All right, so that's very clear. Remember, I argue that, hey, is this guy going there a lot or not? Well, clearly the code 1980 says, and this book says, you don't have to supervise the construction. Rather, it means that the one employed for inspection should visit the project with frequency necessary to observe the various stages of work and ascertain that it is being done in compliance with contract documents and code requirements. The frequency should be at least enough to provide general knowledge of each operation, whether this be several times a day or once in several days. So it makes it clear that that inspection and those self-certifications, if you will, per 1980, per this ACI, that they were okay. And the architectural plans does say it will be built per ACI. And if it's built per ACI, clearly the inspection is also what the municipality contracts with. So arguing for the architect and engineer of record for that building, Feidman, Fieldman, they were allowed to do their own inspections. Right there. Since they put on the documents, it will be done per ACI and the municipality signed off on it, they signed off also on this. So I retract my me stating that, wow, the city used them as a special inspector. Well, turns out the city, well, has no choice if they sign that stipulation as part of the documents where it says we'll be following ACI. That means the city agrees to that type of inspections. So everything I've said about them saying that, it's kind of weird that this special inspector, well, I think they no longer use special inspectors the way they do now then, because I found that in the that it disappeared in 1980, somewhere about 80 or was it 2000, and then I just didn't go down that rabbit hole anymore. But this is more to show you that, so a little bit of a correction on the videos stating that, yes, they were allowed to do their inspections because it was inside the documents. That's why. And the city signed off on it. So they were allowed to do the inspections. They were allowed to do, I won't say infrequent. It's just they're allowed to follow this. The frequency should be at least enough to provide general knowledge of each operation, whether this be several times a day or once in several days. Now, this is the code book, and it's on page 9 if you'd like to find it yourself for people who are so profound that way. I have this in my possession, the hard copy. I love that. All right. Take care. Just wanted to get that out there to you. What do you do now? What do we do now? So here is my epoxy rebar pull-out test. I'm waiting for it. Waiting for a nice frozen temperature that freezes. Looks like we got a little rust on the end of this. Still hasn't delaminated. It'll jacked off the epoxy, so that's good. Freezing temperatures now, and I have another test going on parallel to this one, and it's about frost line. So I still got water here, and right here is where I have frozen. So frozen to there, and water here. This hole, you can see, it's a bottle of water, and the depth of it plus. So it's not quite the 32-inch depth, but all this is frozen. This is frozen soil down to where that water shows. And they're running parallel, and when it's getting sunlight, as you can see, cycling temperatures-wise. So I've got them running parallel to each other, and we do have freezing elements out here, freezing temperatures. All right, so this will be I'll put my rebar pull-out test on this. Sorry, I'm chattering in the voice now because I'm so cold. We'll put my rebar pull-out test on this, and we'll pull it out. But we're going to wait till it gets down to 20 degrees. I think we're only in the 30s, the low 30s right now. Okay, but that's not happening today anyway. All right, hope you enjoy this stuff.